Things that I would like to do as a feminist in Egypt is to discuss with my friends from the ultras, the football fan groups, how we can get a feminist message across to their followers. Because some of my very good friends are founding members of the ultras. And the ultras are not politicized in Egypt. They do not belong to a political party. Their main goal is to create better conditions for the fans in the stadium, and to fight against police violence, and to fight against the authority of the football clubs. The ultras in Egypt began in 2007, and when the revolution began in Egypt in 2011, the ultras were instrumental in protecting Tahrir Square against the violence of the Mubarak regime. So it was the ultras with the youth of the Muslim Brotherhood, because the ultras have a long history of fighting the police and fighting police violence. Now the ultras is all men, of course, it's male dominated, and often they're very macho because it's about their ability to fight the police. But I know from my conversations with my friends who are the founding members of the ultras that they also care about the revolution, and they care about freedom, and they care about ways to keep the revolution alive. And they are listened to by their young followers. So it is my dream to discuss with them how we can get a message across to these young men, because I would like to have a campaign across Egypt against sexual violence, in which we use the media, in which we give training to doctors and nurses on how to help women who are survivors of sexual violence, in which we train the police in how to be sensitive in dealing with survivors of sexual violence. And also it is my dream to get men who are popular with young men. So I would like to get football stars, I would like to get pop stars, but very importantly for me, I would like to discuss with these, the big boys of the ultras, how we can get the message across to the young men that central to the revolution is this idea that we respect women, and that we fight this idea that it's okay to be violent against women, because these men are considered heroes. So it's time to redefine what a hero means. A hero is someone who fights against police violence, yes, but a hero also fights against the violence of other men against women. So I would like to discuss with them how we can create this kind of campaign, and then they discuss it with their young men, because their young followers will not listen to me, but they will listen to the big boys of the ultras. So this is something that is a dream of mine that I would like to start, and together we can talk to the young men and change that culture. I can talk to the young women. So the young women, I talk to them about sexual rights, about religious rights, about freedom, about how I used to once wear a headscarf but I took it off, and they discuss with me if they have problems, if they want to remove their headscarf, or they want to discuss with me how to negotiate with their family, to push for more freedom in their family. I can have those conversations because I'm a woman speaking to young women, but I want to reach young men. So to reach young men, I need to find the heroes of those young men. And lots of those heroes of those young men are the ultras. Now, what happened to me in November of 2011 was on a street called Muhammad Mahmoud, which is now an icon of the revolution. On this street, it was a major battle for 5 days between us, the revolution, and the security forces, the army and the police. And on the last day of this battle, my friend and I, an activist friend and myself, went to the front line, and I was taking pictures of the security forces on the other side, and they used some of their supporters of the security forces to trap my friend and I until the riot police came and took us. And they took my friend across the street, and they held his arms behind his back and beat him, and he could watch them beat me across the street. And I was surrounded by 4 or 5 riot police who used their long nightsticks to beat me, and I used my arms to protect my face, and my left arm was broken and my right hand was broken in 2 places. And then they took me to an empty space where they sexually assaulted me, and then they took me to their supervising officer, who threatened to have me gang raped by a big group of riot police. And then they held me in the Interior Ministry for 6 hours, where they accused me of being a spy. And then I was held for another 6 hours by military intelligence, during which I was blindfolded and detained. Now, I believe, despite all of these things that happened to me, I was very lucky, because 3 hours into my detention, 3 hours after I was detained in the Interior Ministry, an activist came into the room with a smartphone, because I lost my smartphone when I was being attacked. And he got me on Twitter, and on Twitter I was able to send a tweet to tell everyone that I was detained. I had been beaten and detained. I found out later that this tweet went viral, and a campaign called #FreeMona was launched across the world to release me. Al Jazeera and The Guardian wrote about my detention, and the State Department, because I'm a US citizen as well as an Egyptian, tweeted me back saying, "We hear you and we will help to free you." And that's why I say I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky because I have a platform, people know who I am, and I had access to Twitter during this time, and so people had this campaign to release me. I know that if I did not have the fame that I have or the platform that I have, if I was an ordinary, poor, working class Egyptian woman who had none of these privileges, I might very well be dead today. So I try to use the voice that I have and the platform that I have to speak even louder, to shine a light on these violations that oftentimes happen anonymously and nobody hears about. And this also speaks to the importance of social media, because the revolution was not a revolution of social media. To have a revolution, you need people on the street to fight, to look at the regime and say, we are not scared and we will fight you even if you beat us, even if you kill us. This is the revolution. The revolution is not about sitting on a computer on Facebook or Twitter. But what social media did was it created a space in countries where we did not have freedom of expression. So in that virtual world, we spoke and we exposed the violations of the regime in ways that we could not in the mainstream media. And we also used social media to say, I am detained, so that people could help us. And people put videos on YouTube where they speak about what happened to them, where groups who defend women on the ground and they film the sexual assault of women, they use that video and they put it on YouTube so that if anybody says you're lying, they use this video to say, look, you see, women are being assaulted. And then women in countries like Saudi Arabia, where you don't see a mass revolution, but where they're trying and they're fighting back, they, for example, they break the law against women driving, and they film themselves driving and they upload the videos on YouTube to say we are fighting this law. And on October the 26th, Saudi women are launching a new campaign against the law that prevents them from driving, and they will use videos on YouTube and they will use social media. So social media are an important aspect, but they do not create revolutions. They give a voice to people, but they're a small part of revolutions, and they help to connect people in different parts of the world, and it gives them like a front row seat to what people are doing when they go out and fight regimes.